I'm Matt Dillahunty. Joining me this week, Don Baker. Welcome.
Well, good to be here.
And this is a live public access television program sponsored by the atheist community of Austin. You can find out more information about the ACA by visiting the website www.atheist-community.org. There you'll find a frequently asked questions page, a calendar of events, some blurbs about upcoming things. And this is our 733rd show, I think was the number on there. And you can find out more about the TV show by going to atheist-experience.com, and there's an archive there of all the past shows, or most of the past shows, the ones we have access to. And in addition to this program, the ACA also sponsors a internet-only podcast weekly that isn't always weekly, called The Nonprofits, and you can go to nonprofitsradio.com. That's P-R-O-P-H-E-T-S. We haven't had a show in a couple weeks because people have been running around getting married and stuff. But I posted a special podcast about 2 hours ago. I did a quick interview with Sean Faircloth, who is now the Director of Policy and Strategy for the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science here in the United States, formerly the Executive Director of Secular Coalition for America. He and I talked about his new book that's coming out. You can go check out the podcast to listen to that. And the ACA also sponsors another podcast called Godless Bitches that is run by my wife and features Jen and Tracy and Linnea and lots of cool guests. They've done really good interviews. Most of the shows have been on hiatus because so many people have just been running around getting married that we can't do anything else. But the weddings are over. Mine was a week ago, and Russell and Linnea's was yesterday. Dawn's was 3 months ago, yeah, something like that.
May 1st.
So you're still fairly newly on
right.
the newlywed.
Right.
But we're back, and we're setting up shop, and there should be a new Godless Bitches podcast being recorded tomorrow, and we may or may not get Nonprofits back on schedule starting this coming weekend. There are still a few other things going on in the mix, including the 17th. I will be out of town in Georgia for a debate. There's more information about that and other events. If you go to our blog, which is the Atheist Experience blog, it has moved to freethoughtblogs.com/AXP. And I not only posted information like a transcript of the wedding for those people who couldn't hear anything on the live stream. Sorry, that was my fault. The mic didn't properly get turned on. But there's a wedding transcript up, some other talk about wedding stuff, and then there's the information about the debate coming up, and we're going to try to make really good use of that to keep people informed about the show in addition to our website. If you don't get through on the telephone today or you don't want to, you can email tv@atheist-community.org. That goes to myself, the co-hosts, some of the people behind the scenes, and we cannot possibly even hope to answer every single one of them. We do read as many of them as possible, and we try to get answers to the ones that are either most important or maybe it's quick things. But I want to take a minute because we got a lot of mail and Facebook posts and snail mail congratulating us about the wedding and everything. So on behalf of Beth, I'd like to say thank you all very much. The wedding went splendidly, I thought. We had a great time, and apart from the mic not working, it was a piece of cake. The smartest and easiest thing I've done ever. But so you can get more information at the blog, and we'll keep the website up to date to get more information about upcoming ACA events as well. Don's here to tell us or talk about why Christians stopped killing Jews.
Yeah.
That's a rather interesting question.
Interesting question.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay. Well, I've been talking starting a kind of a series on the Christianity's failures. And there's so many of them. I'll probably grow old doing this theme. Last time I was on, I talked about the failure of Christian-based abortion policy and how it's actually causing abortions, ironically. Today I'll be talking more about the genocide of the Jews, Christian genocide of the Jews. For centuries, Christians have killed various groups that didn't believe as they did, including Jews, Muslims, Cathars, pagans, infidels, heretics, and each other even. And including during the Reformation. But most of the direct killing stopped around the end of World War II. It started when Christianity came into power about 1,400 years ago and stopped around the end of World War II. The Holocaust was the culmination of this Christian idea and ended up killing 6 million at least Jews. And the Holocaust was kind of an ecumenical movement, effectively. It included Martin Luther's Protestant anti-Semitism, and partially funded by Catholics, and they certainly never really stepped up to prevent, to stop Hitler, or, throw God into the mix or anything. And even some of the racist ideas from Judaism come in there. We're God's chosen people. We get to kill whoever we want. So, where does this come from? Well, in the Bible, there's this issue where Pontius Pilate is trying Jesus, right? And in Matthew 27:25, all the people answered, "Let his blood be on us and our children." And this is sort of a way, I think, that the author chose to blame the Jews for Jesus' death. They sort of painted this angry mob as wanting Jesus to be killed, and that they sort of accepted the responsibility, in this story. But in reality, what's going on is, Christianity budded off as a child religion off of Judaism, and ended up kind of as a rival to Christianity. They've sort of been fighting each other for converts, that sort of thing. And this is a way, I think, for Christians to spin Jews as being bad folks. Let's see.
Well,
Go
just
ahead.
a quick correction
Sure.
or addition.
Yeah.
It's not so much they were fighting each other for converts, because Judaism is generally opposed to people converting to it. But what was happening was Christianity was taking away, because they had what they claimed to be the Jewish Messiah. So at the time, this was just Judaism, and it was people shuffling towards this new kind of Judaism.
Branch of it, right.
It didn't become Christianity until afterwards.
Right. So this killing has gone on, as I said, from the time when Christians came into power with Constantine, all the way up to the Holocaust, and so it begs the question of, okay, well, if this was something that the Christians are supposed to do, why did they stop? So and why not embrace this whole thing? So. Another quote that I think is very interesting, it doesn't necessarily apply to the Jews, but it applies during the Crusades when the Christians were killing the Cathars. One of the leaders was asked, how do we tell the Cathars from the Catholics? And he said, well, just kill them all, the Lord will recognize his own. And so there's this attitude of, who cares about this life? Let's just get to the next life. Martin Luther has to be mentioned when you talk about anti-Semitism. He was very, very anti-Semitic, and his text called On the Jews and Their Lies, written in 1543, really was the blueprint, I think, for the Kristallnacht in the Holocaust, and the burning of the synagogues, and the destroying of the livelihood of the Jews, and these sorts of things. And you can actually lay them side by side, the events of Kristallnacht and the events of the the prescriptions in On the Jews and Their Lies, and you can match them up quite well. And as it turns out, Hitler really loved Martin Luther's anti-Semitism, and Kristallnacht was carried out on Martin Luther's birthday. So, there's a very deep connection there. Hitler himself was a Catholic, and he says, hence today I believe I'm acting in accordance with the Almighty Creator. By defending myself against the Jew, I am fighting for the work of the Lord. And, a lot has been made about Hitler's religious beliefs, but, we're talking also about the entire German nation here, and we're talking about events that occurred long back into the history. So we're not just talking about Hitler, right? We're talking about all the way back to the 400s. Okay, but after World War II, the killing stopped. Why would that be? And this should be an important question to Christians, right? So if the killing was right, if Christians were supposed to kill the Jews, and you guys have stopped, then you're risking your chances of going to heaven, right? Because you're not following God's morality, right? So that's a problem. if killing was wrong all along, then what you're saying is, oh, well, Christianity has been systematically wrong for most of its existence, for 1,400 years. So that's a problem. And if something changed in the middle here, then what we're saying is this would have had to have been the biggest theological event that occurred in the last century, and nobody seems to know anything about it. And if you really don't know anything about it, then what you're saying is that Christianity's morality is really relativistic, right? One week you do one thing, one week you do another thing, and whatever you want to get away with is just spin. So no matter how you slice this, Christianity is wrong. It's either wrong before, wrong now, or it's just completely spin. So that's why I like this question, because it really does a stumper for folks. When I bring it up to people, I get a lot of spin in return. Right? Most Christians are completely even unaware of their bloody past, and Christian churches make money off this ignorance, right? If churches told people, hey, what you're buying into here is really kind of a genocide thing, I think that a lot of folks would run the other direction. So they have to lie to it, lie about that, and downplay it or not even bring it up. Another thing I get from people is, oh, well, the Pol Pot did this and Stalin did that, and none of these folks that they bring up, though, claim to have God on their side or claim to have God's absolute morality on their side, and none of these other folks did this for 1,400 years. So how is it that, I don't know, you can't claim that your religion is better in any respect? First off, it killed more people and over a longer period, and how does this comparison help you?
Yeah, it doesn't solve anything when somebody says, "Oh, you're advocating something immoral," and then saying, "Yeah, but look how much more immoral this is."
Right.
But I will say that having come from that background, I would have had no problem at all, as I think a lot of Christians probably would have no problem at all, with saying that there were lots of people who were wrong about what Christians should do for many, many years.
Okay, we'll come to that. Okay. So, a lot of folks, like you say, don't see a connection between their Christianity and that of the past. And, nearly all of the sects today that exist had some connection to the sects that did this sort of thing, right? All of the Protestant sects came out of Martin Luther, and it was there at the birth of Protestantism, right? And the Catholics were certainly involved with the Crusades and the Inquisition and all these things that caused all this. And so this begs the question of when did your sect, your particular sect, when did the morality of that sect jump on the tracks, and get the right answer? Can you name a date when you got it right? And people generally can't do that.
Well, there would be. A lot of it is this idea. It's one of the reasons why we see this. Yes, from Christians, yes, religion's a bad thing. Organized religion's a bad thing, and it's because the things that you're talking about and linking to different religious groups, they're definitely linked to those religious groups. But are they linked to Christianity? Is there something within the core doctrine that has persisted? Is there something within the Bible that advocates those things?
Yes.
And in many cases, no.
Okay.
In some cases, yes. Don't get me wrong. We can go all day long on that. But in other cases, no. And I think what some of them might say is that it's not so much that their sect came along and got it right. It's that we are constantly learning. And so this has been the truth all along, and just so many other people got it wrong, and power and greed corrupts and things like that. And there's a way out of every single one of these.
Well,
but none of them...
It's a weasel spin thing.
But none of them demonstrate any sort of truth. All of their little ways out, they're weasels, whether it's the arguments that you pointed to or the kind of spin apologetics that I was talking about. None of them get to anything that approaches truth. It's just yet another opinion. Like, I know this now. I'm sorry that my ancestors did not, but I've come to the real realization, through my interaction with the Holy Spirit or whatever.
Right, and so you can't claim that you, well, if someone claims that, then they can't claim to know anything, right? Because
It's one of the reasons.
The next guy down the road is going to claim, well, I know this better than you did.
It's one of the reasons why one of my favorite things is to point out the bigger issues that are, that are clearly stated, like slavery. Slavery is the go-to because there's no way out of that. Apart from saying, as Ray Comfort said, that he didn't think everything in the Bible was true, and some of them want to shrug off this as, well, this was the ancient Jews who wrote this stuff. This isn't necessarily the Word of God. Well, okay, now you're in the position of admitting that the Bible isn't necessarily the Word of God. So you have to have some mechanism by which to go through and pick out what is or isn't. And now you've got to demonstrate that, which they can't do.
And the last thing they want to do is commit to something, because they make money off the spin.
The other thing is that the other one on that front is that, well, it used to be moral, but now it's not. Oh, no. That's, we can settle that one pretty quickly. But anyway, go ahead.
So hopefully this is a problem for folks. Some claim that the past interpretation of the Bible was wrong. Well, you can read this quote, and it seems pretty clear to me.
Yeah, this ends up being the no true Christian.
Yeah, the no true Christian fallacy. The Bible never changed along the way. Can't you use your prayer to contact the guy and get a clarification if it's a little ambiguous or something?
And that's the kicker. That's the kicker. No matter what, no matter what the answer is, no matter what sort of excuse people want to give, and at the time I would have easily said, lots of people got it wrong and lots of people misused religion. Then why hasn't your God corrected anything? Why isn't there a Bible 2.0? Why wasn't there some clear mandate from this omnipotent, loving being to correct all these mistakes that are being done in his name, and doesn't that make him culpable?
Right. And this movement is much, much too big to write off as, oh, these 3 or 4 errant people, got the wrong impression.
Right.
So I even... I've even had a minister come by my door, and he was trolling for tithers, and I asked him, how can this be? How can you justify this? And he said, well, he said, well, it's organized religion, or it's religion. And so here was this door-to-door religion salesman saying, hey, don't buy my product. But it's kind of funny because he's got a tax exemption and this whole bit. So. But there's a grain of truth to what he was saying, in that mass delusion is worse than individual delusion, I think. I told him that by their fruits you shall know them, which is a variant of Matthew 7:16. So I sent him on his way. And I don't know if he actually got anything out of the conversation or not, but
they never stop by my door.
Yeah.
They leave notes. We are constantly finding notes. Oh, by the way, there was a hell house at the Potter's Church down the street from us, but it was going on while we were in Kyle for the wedding, so we couldn't go. Oh. I really wanted to send somebody, but they gave us the notice, and it's like, $2. And the front said haunted house, $2, and I was like, there's another haunted house, opening up, and it's cheap. It's not one of these $20 scams. So let's go. And I turn it over, and it's like, at the Potter's Church, and I was like, I know what this is. I've been to hell houses before. And we didn't get to go.
Missed that.
Run them for more than 2 days. I'll come. It's easy.
Okay. Yep. Another little bit of spin I get sometimes on these questions is, we're all inherently sinful, and the best we can do is try to follow God. And it's kind of a lame sort of blanket all excuse. It's like we get to do anything we want, and we're all sinners, and we can't possibly know this is wrong. It's kind of a throwing up your hands attitude. And atheists can figure this out. I don't know why Christians can't. Anyway, so why did Christians stop killing the Jews? Well, here's my answer, and you're welcome to call in and tell me I'm wrong or give a different answer. I welcome that. So at the end of World War II, we got to see videos and photographs of the horrors of the Holocaust, and they were seen around the world, and the world was shocked. It was completely shocked at how awful it was. And Christianity's logical conclusion, this anti-Semitism, was shown to the world, and the world recoiled, right? And they considered this whole thing crimes against humanity, and the whole attitude towards this whole anti-Semitism changed because of this. And in effect, secular morality won the day. Okay, it did what the God and Bible and prayer and all this crap, all this Christendom couldn't do. It did very quickly. And so, it's an obvious failure of Christian morality in lieu of secular morality. Since then, Catholics and Protestants have spent a bunch of time trying to spin their role in the Holocaust, claiming Hitler was an atheist or whatever, promotion of the few Catholics that aided Jews, claim that Darwin was at fault, and all this crazy stuff. Catholics have adopted this this pro-life stance, this sanctity of life stance, which is laughable given their history, but it's a way for them to wash their hands of this thing. And Protestants don't mention Martin Luther at all and his rabid anti-Semitism in their churches. Europe has become mostly secularized, and Christianity's bloody history, where it's taught, creates secular cultures, and it's taught in Europe, and most of Europe is pretty secular. And a large section of Jews have even lost their faith in God. So no matter how you slice this was a giant screw up by Christianity, and it begs the question of, if God is really on your side, if God mit uns, as you claim, how can you be so I don't know. I have trouble thinking of a word for it. Deluded and evil.
Yeah. There's another thing that happened shortly after then too, and that is that the nature of biblical scholarship changed a little bit, and you saw a lot of people coming in with end times prophecies. The new evangelical position was such that it was more focused on Revelation and the Jews' role in that. And so now there's been this kind of pro-Zion thing because the end times prophecies are about that. So whereas once they were,
kill the Jews.
Yeah, kill the Jews. Now it's, hey, we need to help them out so we can kill everybody else, or let God kill everybody else type thing.
Yes, yeah.
It's really kind of weird.
Just about as creepy, actually.
Yeah, and Harold Camping, he of the any day now is the rapture, and when it doesn't come, it's any day now again. Evidently, he said that he's done predicting rapture dates and apologizes that God didn't come and slaughter us all when he said he was going to.
I hate it when that happens.
We got that going for us.
You can't even keep his appointments, huh?
And it's been particularly funny in Texas, and this has been brought up over and over again, but I enjoy talking about it, and that is that, we've got a governor who prayed for rain and had this huge prayer rally, and instead of rain, what we got was fires and no rain, and then a bunch of atheists get together for a convention in Houston, and it starts pouring rain. Meanwhile, all these people who are talking about how I'm either Satan incarnate or working for Satan and leading people to hell and God's going to punish me, I had the best weather of all on my wedding day. It was gorgeous.
It was gorgeous.
It was perfect temperature. The sun was not a terrible looking cloud in the sky. We danced. You could go out afterwards, and we're out in the middle of nowhere. You could see stars.
Wonderful event.
I don't know what his aim's like. I mean, we found out evidently. I don't know who got that terrible lightning storm, but we found out during Katrina, when evidently God was sending hurricanes to kill off all the gays, that either God's got really bad aim or the gays have a magical protective shield that protected like the French Quarter and just diverted it around. Anyway, it's a live call-in show, and we've got all the lines full. We're going to go ahead and start taking callers here in just a second. Anybody who doesn't get through on the telephone today can always email tv@atheist-community.org. And the one thing that I didn't announce during the announcements is after the show is over, which is in like 35 minutes or so, most of us involved in the show get together for dinner at El Arroyo. There's the address at the bottom of the screen right there, and we'll be down there. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to come down and join us. You don't have to be a member to attend any of our events. But if you come down to preach, proselytize, or provoke, please don't. Just send us an email. I think the contentious emails actually do get answered at a higher frequency than the congratulatory ones. And while I don't want to be glib about it. We greatly appreciate the fact that people benefit from the show and people are appreciative of what goes on in the show. But and it makes my day when I open up the email and somebody's like, great job, keep doing what you're doing. I don't always respond to all of those, and it kind of feels bad because you want to say thanks so much, we're going to keep doing it, but I don't want people to get a form letter. And meanwhile, there are the emails that come in that are, you're going to hell, or I have proof of God, or please explain to me, what your position is on X. And usually X is something that we've spoken about on the show like 100 times. Right. But the problem is that somebody's seen a 2-minute clip on YouTube, went and found a way to contact us by email, and haven't bothered to watch all 13 or 14 years of the show. So go do that.
That's right.
Take a couple
if we
weeks
got to read
off.
your Bible, this is a
Yeah.
small thing, yeah.
Yeah. Take a couple weeks off and watch every episode we've ever done, and you'll be just as confused as we are. I promise.
Let's go to callers. What do you think?
We do have callers.
Okay.
We've got one that's super long distance that I want to make sure we get taken care of. Andrew in Estonia. Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Good. I'm on Skype. That's why I was a bit worried, but there you go.
So it's a free call, and I bumped you to the front of the line.
No, it's not
You did.
100% free.
Thank you very much for that. I'm looking at the credit now. I've spent about 20 cents in euros while you were chatting. So
okay. That's
I
not
think
too
I'm
bad.
okay.
That's not too bad. So what can we tell you today?
Say again?
What have you got today?
Well, I had something lined up, and I was thinking when I was listening to what you were talking about before that I might go off.
Oh, sure,
script a bit.
sure. Well, you have
Go
a
on to that.
European perspective that would be great to pull in.
Well, that's what I thought. I mean, I'm a Brit, obviously, but I live in Estonia, but we're not so far from where some of the events that you were alluding to took place. And maybe I can shed a bit of light on that instead.
Sure.
I mean,
that.
Don said something about, well, why, these things went up until World War II, why did they end? Well, fairly callous and obvious answer is because everybody was dead. Estonia was kind of, there wasn't much of a tradition of anti-Semitism here, but generally speaking, Central and Eastern European countries, it is a phenomenon here. I mean, I used to live in Vilnius, Lithuania, which is kind of two Baltic states down from here. And before the war, the population was 25% Jewish in this city. This is the capital city of Lithuania now. It was actually part of Polish territory at the time between the wars. And you look at it now, you're talking less than 1%. The demographic changed completely, and that's entirely because of the Holocaust. I used to go running outside of the city in the forest, and a place called Panere. And that was where anything from 50 to 100,000 people were murdered there in the space of a few days. They had two ghettos in the centre of the old town, as they call it. And towards the end of the war, the people they weren't all local people who were killed there. There were people who were deported and so on. Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Oh yes,
I can, and I don't want to be overly rude, but we only got like 30 minutes left in the show, so if you can.
Yeah, no, the reason I asked is there's a strange kind of web advert cut in on me. I couldn't hear what you were saying. So no, basically the obvious answer is everyone was killed, but it was also a Central and Eastern European phenomenon, which quite frankly lingers on a bit. And the kind of the Jew was a kind of folk figure, which kind of folk motif, which is very, very ingrained in the kind of folk culture there, and tying that up with the kind of Christian responsibility is quite hard in a sense, because I don't think that people use biblical justification for it all that much. Lithuania and Poland were kind of overwhelmingly Catholic, and rather than the kind of sola scriptura people. That being said, I think that the priests, did quite a good job of rabble rousing, and of even before the war, the Jewish population were discriminated against in universities. They had to sit at the back of the lecture halls and things like that. So it was only really in the war that kind of facilitated it, and the Nazi occupation facilitated it. But it wasn't something which was automatically begun by that. It was already deeply ingrained, and the war just allowed it to take place.
Yep.
So that's kind of my take on that, really. I don't know if it's
Okay.
Well, I appreciate your perspective.
Did you have any, what were you originally calling in about?
Well, maybe I'll leave it for another time. I was originally calling in as a new atheist, and I was going to.
Oh, okay.
Welcome.
Well, congratulations. Yeah, it may be one of those. It may be one of those things where it's probably best if you just send in an email along those lines.
Sure.
And also, if you stop by the website, there's a number of other ways that you can communicate. I know that there's, for example, Daryl Ray, who's a friend of ours who's been on the show a number of times, runs in America anyway the Recovering from Religion movement, which is recovering religionists. They've got a new director, Jerry, who I met at the Texas Free Thought Convention, and there's a lot of stuff in that area. I don't know, whether or not you're suffering any particular trauma from escaping religion, but there are networks starting up and are out there now where people who have just recently given up their religion or who are suffering difficulty after doing so can interact. And then for those who aren't, there's, I always encourage people to find groups in their area, and participate at the level that they're comfortable with. So. Right.
Okay, well, I'll search for that. That sounds good.
Great.
Deprogramming and everything. Yeah. Well, thanks for your time, and congratulations on the weddings and all that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your
Speak
feedback.
again soon, I hope. All right.
Cheers.
Bye.
All right, we've got, caller changed, I guess. Is this Jacob in Louisiana?
Hey, Matt.
Hey.
I was wondering, what do you think of the Cambrian Explosion, and if you have any really valid explanations for it?
I'm not a biologist or an evolutionary biologist, so your best bet is to talk to them, and you can get good explanations from real evolutionary biologists who've put this information online by going to Talk Origins.
Okay.
Is there some sort of controversy there?
Well, I was wondering if you like all of the species on Earth just like pretty much showed up during the Cambrian Explosion, and which is kind of contrary to
not really.
That's not really what the Cambrian Explosion is. It's not like species magically appeared. This was a rapid increase in diversity of life.
Yeah, but it happened too quickly for it to be caused by evolution, right?
How do you know that?
No, nobody thinks that, or nobody who's a serious biologist or paleontologist thinks that.
I mean, you're looking at quick, and you're saying quick in the form of millions and hundreds of millions of years. But I'm not aware of any biologist who thinks that it's too quick. But let's presume for a second that the current models of evolution were somehow contradicted, or that we didn't have a good explanation for the Cambrian explosion. I think that we do. I'm just not the person who's going to be sitting here to represent the details of science on a show like this. But let's presume for a moment that we didn't. So what? The answer at that point is I don't know. And if you look into this from any number of other arenas, including, for example, we've talked about before, Francis Collins, who's an evangelical Christian and the head of the NIH, who is quoted as saying that the DNA evidence alone supports not only evolution but common ancestry, even if we had no fossil record at all. So this idea that that we've found something that happened too fast for evolution is not only false, but all it would do, if it were true, is reform the current model so that we had a better explanation of these things. Okay,
well, you said that that everything is related through DNA, right?
Yes.
Well, that would make sense if they all came from the same creator, right?
There must be a God.
Maybe,
then.
I don't know. I suppose that if there is a creator God, it's possible that everything would be related through DNA, and it's also possible that it wouldn't. Are you saying that a God creator would be incapable of having disparate genetic codes?
No, but
Okay, so if you're not going to
shows that
pigeon...
it comes from the same source, right?
Sure, but you can't slap your God in as the source. There's no justification for slapping a God in. That's the God of the gaps argument, and that's, we don't have an explanation for X, and therefore I'm going to stick a God in there. Well, you know what's happened every single time we've stuck God in a gap and then continued to investigate? We found out the real explanation, and God was then removed from that gap and stuck into other gaps. And so you actually have to come up with evidence to support your hypothesis that there is a God required and a God responsible for the origins of life. You can't just assert it. Because the thing is, the God explanation, first of all, it's not an explanation because it doesn't explain anything. We explain things in terms of things that we understand. What it is you can't solve a mystery by appealing to another mystery. And so when you say, we don't know the answer to this, therefore God, you should have just stopped at we don't know the answer to this, because you haven't added anything to the discussion by positing a God.
Okay, but it's not a God of the gaps argument, because I'm not putting evidence in a gap. I'm saying,
it's a gap in
all
our
DNA, all living organisms have similar DNA, which means that they have, they have a
common ancestry,
a common source. But the Cambrian explosion shows that they couldn't have evolved quick enough to.
No, it doesn't.
Only creationists think that.
Okay.
There are
and they don't have they're ignoring the evidence to the contrary.
There are biologists who've already answered this over and over again, but I'm not going to get into a big...
Stephen Jay Gould has answered this at length.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I wish P.Z. Myers would sit in on the show more often so that he could just answer this and toss it away. But the answer's out there on Talk Origins, and I'm not just going to keep going over it with you're saying that it's impossible and I'm saying that it's not, because we get nowhere. What I've done is I've actually been as conciliatory as possible and said that even if you were right, it doesn't prove that your God exists.
Okay. Well, I have another question for you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I'll just ask it, and I'll let you answer. I'll get off.
Okay.
What proof and evidence do you have that atheism is accurate and correct?
I wish you wouldn't get off. I wish you'd stay.
Okay.
Because there's this moron on YouTube who keeps asking this question and pretending like we haven't answered it. Not only have I answered it on the show before, but on the blog as well. The question is ill-formed. The question is, what proof and evidence do you have that atheism is true? Well, atheism is the position of not accepting the theological explanation. It is not accepting the God hypothesis. It is, in fact, the null hypothesis. It cannot be proven to be true. It is the default position. And Christianity and Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam, they have all failed to meet their burden of proof. It's not up to me to prove that there are no gods any more than it's up to me to prove that there isn't Bigfoot or fairies or UFOs. The default position, the null hypothesis, is that these things aren't true. And we wait and reserve belief until they are demonstrated to be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. But
Cool.
Does that mean that atheism is not a worldview?
That's correct. Atheism isn't a worldview. It doesn't have any tenets or dogma, no books, no authorities. It is a single position on a single question, the existence of gods. Now, there is a worldview that many atheists share. Most of us, at least with the ACA, are skeptics. That informs our worldview. My atheism is a direct product of skepticism. Many of us are secular humanists, which tell us a little bit more about perhaps our moral outlook on life and other things. There's many, many labels that would fit, and there are a number of secular worldviews that are consistent with atheism. But just saying you're an atheist alone doesn't tell you anything at all about somebody's worldview. By the way, most Buddhists are atheists. They don't believe in a God, but they believe in any number of, in some cases, supernatural things that I don't accept. Some of them don't accept that either. So yeah, atheism is not a worldview. It can certainly be a part of a worldview, but it's not a worldview in that broad sense.
Okay, well, thanks for your time and everything.
Sure, thanks, Jacob.
Bye.
Tell Shaka I said hi. We got Jeff in Springboro, North Carolina. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Matt?
Pretty good.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to ask, it's kind of a complicated situation. I'm an atheist, and I'm dating a conservative, fundamentalist Christian. And it didn't start off that way. I didn't go into the relationship as an atheist, but I've really just been a cultural Christian all my life. I've just kind of been, kind of loosely accepting the tenets of Christianity, not really practicing or believing them. And, I met someone who, the opposite is, conservative Christian, and, it's just kind of a difficult situation now because, emotions are attached. I really do like her. And, it's just, I just don't know how to deal with it, and I just want to know if I can get some kind of advice.
I don't have any magic bullets for you. I've got a couple things to say that may be helpful. Religion and money and politics are all very tough questions in relationships. Very often people hold on to these things passionately. It sounded like you changed a little bit during the relationship, right? And maybe I don't know if you're an atheist, but it may be that your new free thought ideas are a big thing for you right now, right? So you've changed. Maybe she's changing a little bit, and sometimes you grow apart. So it's really sort of a challenge of whether or not you can be honest with each other about your differing views, and maybe if you can't resolve the differences, which with religion that's a tough thing to do, maybe you can at least agree to disagree on certain topics. I'll tell you what, if you're new in a relationship, down the road you're going to have kids maybe, and then that whole thing will come up again because there'll be a big question of how you're going to raise your kids and what you're going to teach your kids and these sorts of things. And it's better to have those discussions early rather than get waist deep into a relationship and realize that holy moly, I'm in trouble. So does any of that resonate with you?
No, it makes perfect sense. It does. Because I didn't go in just thinking, I just don't believe in the God. But it's now that I've been in the church for about a year, and I'm hearing these sermons, and I've always kind of been skeptical. Like I said, I've been a cultural Christian, but I never really believed it or practiced any of the tenets of Christianity or believing in Jesus in a meaningful way. So it's just
So it sounds like you're becoming less religious. It sounds like.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
Well, it's and we get this question a shocking number of times in email and similar questions. All I can do is, because I'm reluctant to give relationship advice in any kind of strong form, but I can tell you from the people I've talked to, I know some people who are in relationships where one person's an atheist and the other one's not, and they find a way to make it work. I do know that it's at least possible. It wouldn't be possible for me. I can say that with pretty good assurance. But not everybody is the same about their religious views. Some people it's more important, some people it's more fundamental. And Don's absolutely right. The best thing is to make sure that you have a lot of conversations, serious conversations, about things that you may not even be ready to talk about right now. Which Beth and I had conversations about just about everything before we got married. We were on the same page on most of it, so it wasn't too big of a deal. But you have to own up to the fact that, at least from her perspective, you're the person in the relationship who changed. This doesn't mean that you're wrong in any way. You should always be honest about who you are and emotionally, intellectually, etc. But you have some responsibility for the fact that you have changed somewhat in who you are.
Well, everybody changes in relationships.
Yes,
right?
And that's the thing, is that everybody's going to change throughout their lifetime, and recognizing this, but being able to address it early on is a big deal, because I've gotten emails from people who have been in a relationship for a number of years, who have children, and one of the two individuals in the relationship have dramatically changed their views. Either they both started off as non-believers or cultural Christians or whatever, and one of them became extremely fundamentalist in their beliefs, or they were both started off believers and one of them became an atheist and is now not just an atheist, but much like myself, directly opposed to religion and what religion does to people. That makes for very difficult relationships. I know a number of people who are in those relationships. They've ended up in custody battles that are terrible. You need to take the steps to make sure that you're doing what's right for both of you early on, that nobody's going into the relationship any further with any delusions. because as soon as it comes out, as soon as it becomes an issue, any earlier dishonesty is going to be devastating.
One other thing I'd like to throw in there is, and this happened with me in my relationship, is that as I became kind of a more outspoken atheist, the atheist part of my identity became very, very important for a while. You know, it became kind of the new toy, and in a way, I might have been maybe a little annoying with it, right? Or a little bit overboard with it. And over time, you know, that settles out, and you sort of find your way and integrate that in with the rest of your identity. And so I guess the advice would be, you know, if you're going through that, at least be aware that's maybe a phase. Not that atheism is a phase, but that you're going to be excited about it and intrigued and interested in learning about it very intensely, maybe for a while. I don't know if this applies to you exactly, but then that will fade out, and maybe both of you need to be aware that this is just something you're going through, a new part of your identity, a new part of who you are. So just another food for thought.
One more quick question, please.
Sure.
I read a book. Well, I didn't read the book, but I kind of read the premise of it, and it's about an author named Bo Bennett, and he wrote a book about kind of like accepting kind of like the non-spiritual aspects of Christianity, and just kind of accepting this general kind of, I guess, universal truths of it, as far as like just being kind to your neighbor and so on and so forth. And he's an atheist, but he kind of enjoys going to church, and it's kind of almost a contradiction. But I didn't read the book. I just kind of read just the premise of it. And I want to know what you guys thought about that, like just somebody who's an atheist, but actually just goes to church and kind of like the fellowship and the community aspect of church.
It drives me crazy. I'll tell you what, though. I've often said, keep the good wherever you find it. And there's plenty of good things within Christianity and other religions, but they're not good because they're derived from those sources. But absolutely keep the good from wherever you find it and ditch the bad things. The thing about it that drives me crazy is that while I'm a fan of moderate and liberal theists, in that they've overcome the more nasty elements of their religion, that they've been somewhat enlightened, they serve as a cover, as a legitimizer for the more fundamentalist aspects of that. And when I find atheists who want to go to Christian churches and just it serves as some sort of endorsement, as if there's something there that they can't get anywhere else. And in some cases, that may actually be true. It may be the case that what they get out of that is community and a sense of belonging, and that's one of the areas where atheist communities are trying to do a better job as we move forward to build better communities. But when it comes to the morals and the ethics and the precepts, the Bible is not a moral guide. It drives me crazy when people try to claim that it is. I'd say more, but I'm saving a couple things for the debate on the 17th. But if it's something that they enjoy and benefit from, who am I to say don't do it? It's their life. And as long as they're not hurting anybody else, good on them.
Gotcha. Thanks. And one last question. I'm just going to let you guys go after this.
Okay.
Peter H. Gilmore, he's the head of the Church of Satan. What do you guys think about him?
It's a childish thing.
Yeah, I think it's a dumb name. By and large, I agree with many of the things that the Church of Satanism comes out with as far as their principles. I just find it absurd the way they package it all. I mean, they don't believe, the LaVeyan Satanists, by the way, don't believe anything supernatural. Okay, good. They're a little more hedonistic than I think I would be, but they are realistic in their approach about, interactions with people. They're a little more vindictive than I would be. But the biggest thing is you're calling yourself Satanist. You've adopted a specific term that means something within a religion and tried to say, oh, no, we don't actually believe there's a Satan. We're just going to keep using the name because we think it's cool. I couldn't possibly be a Satanist even if I agreed with them across the board.
Yeah, when they grow up, they can become full-blown atheists.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks a lot, guys. You have the bunch, and fan of you guys' show. Congratulations, man, for getting married.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
Appreciate the call.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. So there's only like 8 minutes or so left in the show. As a reminder, we'll be going to dinner at El Arroyo after it's over with. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to come. If you don't get through on the phones, email us, tv@atheist-community.org, and you can also just wait around and call in next week when we'll be back. We've got, is it Nathan?
Hello, Nathan.
Hello,
Are you
Nathan?
there?
I'm here. Hello.
Okay. You're on the air. What's up?
Not much. Before I get to my topic, I just want to say I'm a big fan and just recently discovered y'all on my Android phone and enjoying it so far.
I didn't even know I was on your Android phone. Oh!
Android app, yeah.
There's actually a soundboard of me for the Android, which I just giggled about, which is funny.
Soundboard?
So look for, if you've got an Android,
that.
yeah, if you've got an Android, look for Dillahunty soundboard. It's just funny.
Okay.
Anyway, what do you got for us, Nathan?
I know it's jumping a bit off topic here, but I missed the show y'all had on it a while back on abortions. And I myself am atheist, but I am pro-life. And I was just wanting to give y'all my opinion of it and get some feedback, see if I've overlooked anything, or just what y'all think.
Sure,
Okay.
so you're going to explain why you're anti-choice.
Yeah, yes. Well,
I had to do that. My wife was just laughed, I'm sure. Go ahead.
As I said, I'm atheist, and I believe this is our only shot at life, all we get. So it is greatly valued. And I just believe that when someone's pregnant, I'm going to use the term the possibility of life. I don't hold it as equal to life. I believe that, let's say, if a woman's life is threatened by pregnancy, that there should be an exception. I do believe in exceptions, but I believe that if there's the possibility of life, the chance of life, it should be sought after.
Well, I think a lot of atheists, a lot of folks would agree with you that terminating a pregnancy is a regrettable thing, and we should try to avoid it if we can. I don't think that even folks in the pro-life movement think that that terminating a pregnancy should be a birth control mechanism, right? It's sort of a last resort sort of
I have
thing.
no problem with that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, not only do I not have any problem with that, I find it curious that you say you don't hold it equal to life. And if you don't hold it equal to life, how can you possibly be opposed to someone's choice to end a pregnancy if it's not equal to life? You would then be putting the possibility of life as more valued than the life that's actually carrying it. I mean, this is a woman's body here. And you're saying that you don't consider the fetus to be equal to a life, and yet you're willing to you're willing to make exceptions for special circumstances. But if she simply does not wish to put her body through a pregnancy, that's not good enough, and you're going to go in favor of something that you don't consider to be equivalent to her life. How do the rights of that fetus suddenly trump her right to control her body?
Well, as I should have said from when I first called, and I did not, I was sure I was missing something, and that's why I was wanting to call and get y'all's opinion. I want to look into it more.
Sure.
I'm by no means absolutely positive on my stance. I'm always open for more opinions.
And to
Definitely
be
something for me to
honest,
think about.
this abortion issue really isn't an atheist issue.
It's not.
The context in which I brought this up is really sort of taking a look at the theistic arguments against abortion and taking a look at the validity of those arguments. I think you can make valid secular arguments both ways, and that's where the debate should happen, in my opinion. It should not be, oh, I believe this without evidence, and therefore my opinion trumps yours. Trumps your decision. That's the type of thing I really want to get away from. Is the unproductiveness of religious discussion here, because I don't really think it has much to contribute.
And now I want to have a side debate on what the good secular arguments are. But unfortunately,
That'll be a dinner conversation.
there's only like 3 minutes left in the show because I'm not aware of anybody. But what you can do, and I hate to rush you off, Nathan, but if you're really just looking for good information about this, not only is it not necessarily relevant to the show, but I'm not necessarily the best advocate, but you can email gbpodcast gbpodcast@yahoo.com. That's the Godless Bitches podcast that my wife runs. And they will be happy to go over in detail the bodily rights argument and help you, at least firm up whatever your opinion may be.
Yeah, and you might tune in some of the Godless Bitches episodes because they've hit that subject several times.
And they will hit a bunch more. Thanks a lot for calling, Nathan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too.
Thanks. All right, we've got just like almost no time at all left. Duane in Seattle, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Great. We're short on time, so if you can get to it quick, I'd appreciate it.
Really quick, I'm an atheist. My girlfriend is an atheist. My girlfriend grew up as a fundamentalist Christian.
Mm-hmm.
We're having some trouble dealing with the lashback from coming out publicly as atheists and posting satirical videos that we've created online. Just trying to figure out what we should do to best handle it. A, to protect her, and B, to further atheism. One of the big issues we have is a lot of Christians seem to come together and do their version of jihad, which is essentially, post comments about her tits and make comments that they're going to try to rape her, things like that.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry you're going through that. Maybe you should try doing your stuff anonymously.
The thing is we do it anonymously. We do it over YouTube. We only use our first names, and it's not something that we actually, we do it in our daily lives, but it's something that we are having increasing problems with because one guy actually tried to track her down and show up at her work, and that created issues.
That's very creepy.
You could try turning off comments. The other thing is you can report them. I wish I had better information. I don't even generally read YouTube comments because I don't post that much to YouTube anyway. But they're putting the credits up on the screen, and I apologize, but we've got to let you go. Maybe call in again next week, and we'll see if we can't think of something better. Also, Julian, I apologize that we didn't get to your call as well. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and for our studio audience, who was not as lively as you're supposed to be. So you're not getting paid today. But we'll see you all next week. Thanks.